Hey there neighbors, Kevin here with etrailer, and today we are going to be taking a closer look at the Ductless Furrion Chill Cube air distribution box. If you're needing to replace your AC unit because it's just not working anymore, or maybe it's just not really keeping up with the hot temperatures out there, then replacing it with the Furrion Chill Cube is going to be the best option for you. This specific unit is going to have an 18,000 BTU rating, which is well above all of the other ones out there on the market, because your typical ratings are going to be about 13.5 or 15,000. Now, with this one being 18 and this being a smaller trailer, it's going to be a lot more efficient at cooling it down. And on top of that, this is one of the most quiet air conditioners I personally have ever installed or seen, whether it's inside the trailer or outside. Now, this unit can be paired with either the ducted or ductless air distribution box, and to figure out what you have, you are going to want to take down the plastic that covers your air distribution box on the inside of your trailer so you can look in there and see, or if you can tell that there's vents throughout your trailer, you should already kind of know that it is a ducted system, and you're going to want to make sure that you're getting the correct air distribution box to go along with that. So with all that said, why don't we go down and we can check out the air distribution box that we installed on this one and go over some of the features. Now with it on, next to power we have gear mode. We'll want to be on cool, we won't want to be on auto, and this essentially is going to drop our energy usage down to either 75% or 50%. So in those moments where maybe you are using an inverter to run your AC unit and you're really trying to keep the power low, because AC units do have a huge power consumption when it comes to drawing from a DC battery, that's going to help give you a little bit extra time there, because now we're using a little bit less. But along with that, now it's not going to be cooling as efficiently or as strongly, so you might have a much longer cool down period. Next to that is our mode button, which we have auto, cool, dry, fan, and heat. Heat is optional, and right now we are waiting on Furrion to come out with a harness and wall thermostat that's going to match up, that you can use to connect to your furnace. So in ours right now, we have this Dometic furnace, and the wall thermostat is already in place, so luckily nothing is tied into our AC unit, so we didn't have to worry about losing that functionality in the meantime. But once that comes out, we can swap that over and have this be an all-in-one kind of system here. Next to that, we have a little light right here. You can see it's saying 73, and that's the degrees that this is set at. And if we wanted to make that a little bit cooler, we could press our minus button here, get that down. You can see the fan's starting to kick up a whole lot more on that now, because now it's trying to get down to that 65 degrees. Now, if we want to make it a little bit warmer, we can go back up to 70 there. And next to all of that, we also have our fan mode, our sleep mode, and swing, which is what allows this to go back and forth. If we're tired of it moving back and forth, we can press that one more time. It's going to stop it right where it's at. On the fan, we have a low, medium, high, and then a turbo mode. That turbo mode is going to be a much faster fan speed, and that's really what you're going to want whenever you're getting into your camper for the first time. So say you picked up your camper from the lot, you get down to your campsite, it's super hot because it's summer and it's just been sitting there baking in the sun all day. That's where you can come back, turn on turbo mode, and really cool your camper down a whole lot faster. Next to that is that sleep mode button, and essentially sleep mode is going to set it at a lower temperature and then raise 2 degrees every so often, so that way you're not using as much energy during the night when you don't really need it to be as cold, because it's a lot cooler outside without the sun beating down on the trailer. So that's another one of those energy efficient modes here that's going to help you out if you are boondocking and you really are trying to conserve some energy. With the remote, it's going to come with all those same functions, but it has a couple extra buttons here that I'll talk about. First one being the follow me button. So if you had a larger camper and when you just have that one centralized AC unit, maybe the back of the camper where your bed is a little bit hotter and you want it to kick on a little bit quicker. So what you would do is you'd come back to that area, you'd hit the follow me button, and then now our remote is going to be taking the temperature instead of the probe that's up in our rooftop unit here. So that's giving you a much more accurate reading, and then it'll kick on. Next to that, down below, is the swing button. So once again, we have that functionality. The gear button, we have LED so that we can turn on the LED on here in case it's dark out. And then there's also a timer. So say you only want it to run for maybe an hour or so and then shut back off. You can set that and have that automatically switch off for you, so you're not having to come back in the camper to do it. Now, as far as installation goes, this is going to be easy regardless of what style air distribution box you have, because once it's down here, it really is just putting it up in place with the bolts and then just connecting the couple of wire harnesses you have and just that 110 volt wiring to actually have power running to our unit. So that's all super easy to do, really not even time consuming in my opinion. Really the hardest thing is going to be getting that AC unit up on the roof. Now that unit is a lot smaller than most of the previous models that are out there and some of the other brands that are out there on the market currently, and it is a lot lighter, but it is still a bit heavy and awkward when you're having to climb up a ladder with it. So you're going to want to have a couple buddies with you, maybe set up 2 ladders if you don't have a forklift or some other kind of heavy equipment that can actually lift that up and get it high enough to get up on the roof. So like I said, that's really just the hardest part, is just getting it up there. Once you have it up there, installing the rest of this is a cakewalk for you. So if you feel like you cannot get that unit up there, or maybe you just don't have extra hands to help pull it up some ladders and get it up there, then please feel free to use our dealer locator. And you can enter in your zip code to find a shop near you and have them put it up on the roof for you and get it professionally installed. Now, if you are wanting to do this yourself, then stick around and I'll walk you through the process. All right, to start off our install, we're going to want to grab a couple tools. One of them being a smaller flathead screwdriver, a Phillips head bit, and then also a square bit, because there's typically going to be a few Phillips and a few square screws that are going to be in our assembly here. Now, the beginning of this is removing our air distribution box and then also taking out the 4 screws that actually clamp down the rooftop unit to our trailer. So to start out, typically you're going to be popping out some kind of cover, and on this one, this is a Coleman mock. They don't have any covers over the screw holes, so you actually have to take out the filters here. So we're going to pop out our grate, and I'm going to use a flat head right here to pop out my filter over the little tabs holding it in place. Set that aside, and now we can start to see we have screws going right in here, and that's what's actually holding the plastic portion of this up. So I'm going to need to pop out both of our filters. So that we can get to all 4, and then we can pop down our air distribution box. And what it does look like these are square bits, so we can pop that in. And our knobs are actually holding it up the rest of the way. So we can throw those to the side. Now it looks like we got 4 more Phillips head screws to take out, and then there's also, we have these 4 bolts that run up and tie into our rooftop unit. Now you should definitely make sure that you're not connected to shore power while doing this. You don't want to end up touching anything that's going to be live. Looks like they also taped this up so that they could really seal in the air here. So we'll have to break that loose. There we go. Now right here is your 6-pole or 9-pole socket here that runs up into the rooftop unit. We're not going to be reusing that and just swapping out anything here, so that's really not important. And a lot of the older setups before they switched the refrigerant, we would do a lot of swap outs where we're only maybe replacing just the rooftop unit or just the air distribution box, and that was a bigger deal back then. But if you were in that situation, that's what you kind of want to look for to find the replacement. So like I said, we want to make sure that we're not connected to shore power, and then we're going to undo our wiring here, running into our control box. I can get it. It's also not a bad idea to hang on to this. Say you're trying to figure out what exact wire is what in here, so you're not trying to guess what's power, ground, neutral. You can look at the wire harness here and then, or the diagram here for the wire harness, and then match everything up. Now each one of these control boxes is going to be different, you know, throughout the different makes and models here, but essentially there's always going to be a screwed in cover on it, just because you don't want that connection here to ever possibly come out to where someone could accidentally touch it. So we're just going to work this out, get the wire nuts off of our power, neutral, and ground here, so that way we can pull our wiring out. And I've already loosened up the top here so our whole cable can actually pop out. And we'll set the wire nuts aside and our whole air distribution box. And now I'm going to grab a socket and we'll get these all popped out and we can get up on the roof and get our AC unit out of the way. Alright, now this might be different depending on which AC unit you have, but in our case I'm going to be using a 5/16 socket to remove our bolts. Now keep in mind, once you remove this last one, the whole metal frame here is going to want to come down on you, so make sure you have a hand on it. Alright, now that I've got my AC out of the way, I'm going to just come up here with some alcohol and just give this a good wipe down. This doesn't have to be perfectly clean. You're never honestly going to get it all the way clean, but we do want to make sure we don't have any kind of debris that could potentially cause a gap in our seal with our new gasket that we're going to be putting on here. So just clean it up as best you can, but don't feel like you have to get it perfect. Alright, I have my AC ready to go. If you have an extra set of hands, now is the time to grab them, so that way you can lift it up and then set it gently down over our roof opening. Now we want to make sure that we aren't dragging in this, because if we do, it's really easy to rip the foam gasket off the bottom of your unit. While lifting it, you also don't want to tilt it too much, because if you do, you're now shifting that refrigerant that's inside, and as you do that, you're going to have to let it sit for a while and kind of all form back to where it needs to. Otherwise, you can end up ruining the unit. And that goes for pretty much any kind of refrigerant. And I'm going to just line this up just a bit better. But we're kind of going to need that second person so that we can be inside, make sure that each of our holes line up, and we have it sitting exactly how we want. Alright, we have our unit in place. We can bring our wiring down and just toss that bag aside. So here's what I was talking about. You can see each corner we have our mounting point. So getting this centered in our opening is pretty important here, so that way all of our stuff's going to line up properly. If you need to, you might have to go up and make some minor adjustments. It's really easy if you have someone down here kind of looking up and guiding you, and they can also kind of push up from the bottom while you're lifting from the top, and then really get this keyed in. Now we're going to separate the metal framing here from our air distribution box, and to do so there's going to be two tabs you're going to want to pull on. So this one right here, we'll let that pop out, and then there's one more back over on this side where the airflow comes through. If you pop that out, you can then lift this up, and now we have access to our wiring, and we can get this all ready to go. Alright, now that we're inside, we're going to have our framing with our air distribution box here, and this is what we're going to want to put up first. So there's going to be this foam right here, and what this does is creates a barrier between the air that we are sucking back up into the unit and then the air that we're pushing out, because we don't want to be just recycling cold air, we want to recycle hot air. Otherwise it's going to freeze up your unit. So there's going to be another piece of foam, and this has lines in it because this one is one that you might have to cut down, and each one of these will give you like kind of a little marker, so that way you can do it in little sections. But if you're not needing to, you can just put it up on there. And then there's going to be some tape this foam tape right here, which is going to go along that and help seal that up fully and have the two pieces somewhat taped together so that way there's no shifting or anything. But to figure out what we need to have that at, we're going to want to first put up our framing here, and we're going to take one of the long lag bolts that come with our kit, and we're going to run that in. I'm going to do one on this side and one on the other side so that way I can take a good measurement. And for this, I'm going to be using a 3/8 socket. And I'm just running that up until it's just touching. We don't want to tighten it down just yet. All right, now we can take our tape measure, and we're going to measure the gap between our foam and then the roof here. So that's going to be our portion here with that foam. You can see above that. So it looks like we're right at like 2 1/8. So then we can come back here, and that 2 1/8, we're going to want to measure from that upper lip because this lip's going to sit down inside of that other foam. So from here up, looks like we're right at that first line there. So if I cut this off, and if anything, I can possibly just squeeze that down a little bit more. But if you run into some issues, you can trim a little bit out. I'm going to try and squeeze it down because the more pressure we have forcing this in there and creating that barrier, the better it's going to perform. So we'll leave that off and we'll pull this back down. But another thing to kind of get in your head right now is how we're going to route all of our wiring. So my wiring's coming out on my side where we're having our air forced out. I need it to come all the way over into this area where we have the air kind of coming back in. I'm going to get it around this probe right here. And now there's wire loom clamps on here so you can grip your wire and hold it nice and tight. This space right here is for a terminal block. That terminal block is going to have sections in it. So this side right here, you see we got 1, 2, which is neutral, and then we have a ground. So we put our power, neutral, and ground in on this side from our RV wiring. And then on the other side, you can see it's got some square openings. If we look at our wiring on here, that has the same style connector except for the ground, but we can ground it with this guy right here, and then we can just ground this up with another screw. So for this block, there's going to be some longer screws in your kit, some of those with the machine head, and it's flat, so it's popping right in. So I'm going to get that in place. And the way you orient it, you can do it either way. So if you're wiring, say it isn't on this side, maybe it's on the other side, you can flip that block around and get it set just how you need it. But for that, we are going to need a Phillips head. And then there's a little tab right here that's going to line up with one of these holes, depending on which way you have it facing. So I need it facing this way. So we can put it just like so. And screw it into place. Now we have that figured out. I am going to stick in the other 2 bolts, but I'm not going to fully tighten them, just a tiny bit, because I'm going to drop this back down. We'll get that other section of foam in, push it back up, see if we absolutely do need to trim it down a little bit, and then we can fully tighten this down and then get onto our wiring. But I want these to help hold it up. Now I'm catching on the roof membrane because they've lapped it up on the side here and then just stapled it. So you want to make sure you get that out of your way. And I am going to have to cut a little bit of the foam just to get my wiring through because it isn't on this side for us. So I'm going to make a little notch right where my wiring is sitting. And then we can just tape over that to help seal that back up. All right, so I made a little notch here. Don't go too crazy with it. I'm really just trying to have it sit just for that thickness of our wire right there. And now we can pop it back in place. And we'll line our grooves up. I'm gonna have to fight the wiring just a bit because I did pretty much make that super tight. So I'm gonna have to get that sitting right here. All right, when you have it lined up and in the groove correctly, we can re-tighten this down just till it's touching. Because we're going to come back and torque this as well. But I want to make sure that that's not going to slip. There we go. And then we can take our tape and we're just going to run that along the seam between the two of these here. So just some double-sided tape to come across. They give you a little bit more than what you'll actually need, so you'll probably want to just figure out your length first and then trim it, and then you can get it in there. Peel back the backing here. Now that we have it cut down to size, and get that tucked in here. With the foam in place, now we can switch back over to our electrical. And I'm going to try to get this tucked up in here. Have to push back a bit more, and we can start popping in our wiring. I have to do that first. Neutral in the middle, and then our ground. Pop back out. And then once we get those tucked in, push that up into our clamp here. I'm going to tighten down our screws here just so this can't move anymore, and then I'm going to finish pushing this up, and then we can get our loom clamp over that. Alright, now we're going to have two smaller screws. We're going to be popping those in. One for other side here. We can get our electrical from the AC unit up in place as well. And on this one, I think I'm going to circle the ground back and just pop it right onto the loom clamp holder there. And then for this ground that's running to the whole panel here, we're going to just pop that right in place here. Our power and ground will go into this terminal block as well. Same as before with the neutral in the middle. And power over on the side. And those can be tightened out as well. And we'll have a bunch more screws. We're going to use those to pop on our cover, which is this metal box right here. And when I ran this through, I made sure I had my wiring coming through the center. And if you look at your box, on that side, we got a center pocket for that to pass through. And on the other side, it's more over to the edge. So we are going to pop that on. I am going to need to kind of push that wiring back over a bit. Once that's in place, we'll just pop a couple screws in. And then we'll also have a little cover that's going to sit on this side. So if you really did need to get in there and do some wiring, but you didn't want to pull the whole box down, you could. Now typically, that's only if you're using the wire nuts, because with that terminal block, it's completely covered by this. This cover will pop in just like so. It'll have a little side bracket here and a little spot here with one screw holding it up. Now we're going to be torquing this down. This is a very, very light number here. So honestly, we're going to be using a torque wrench for bikes because this does Newton meters, and that's what we need, something super low. But this is essentially going to be compressing that gasket about a half. So we are going to get this rolling here. This is one where I'm also going to move around and try to get it this nice and even. So this one's a little bit harder to hear the torque actually go through, but you can see it's bending right there at the head. So we know that one's good. Keep working my way around. Yep, we're there now with this one. Once you get each one of these done, just go back through it one more time. Make sure that they're still all torqued to spec. Alright, all of them are torqued down. Now we can reinstall our plastic portion of our air distribution box and get the rest of this wiring hooked up. Now with the actual air distribution box cover here, there's going to be a couple connections to make, but luckily there's no guessing here. There's going to be this little 2-pole connector and then this 5-pole connector, and these are just going to match up with the wire harnesses that we have hanging down from that rooftop unit. Just make sure that they're fully clicking into place. Our next step is going to be mounting this up, and you want to kind of just tuck your wiring in the center here. And we're going to have the ducted side, or the duct where all the air is going to be coming out, coming towards the front of the trailer. Catching on my wiring here. I'll push that back. You can actually just kind of have it sit on this grate. It's going to be hidden to where you won't see it anyway, and it's not like it's really going to stop your airflow. There we go. Alright, the wire was giving me a little bit of trouble here, but we finally got it to just stay put while I click this in. So remember, you did have a tab at the front and at the back here that was actually attaching it to that metal. But there are going to be a few more screws that we're going to want to pop in. So grab a couple more of them, and we're going to have a few spots that attach it right to the metal. You can see one here, here. Now there's also going to be one mounting point right here in the middle. Now the electrical box that we have all of our wiring in is going to have a hole in it, but it also has foam over it. So you want to kind of just scrape that off first. And if you didn't do that already, what you can do is just kind of pull down on this and you can pop it out, and then you can get over there and just kind of scrape that back and then put the screw in. And then there's going to be two more on the duct side here. One on either end. And that one I'm going to need a longer bit for. Let's switch over. Once you have all 5 screws in, we can then replace our little cover right here. And then all that's left to do is go hook up the shore power and test out your unit. Last thing to do, and this is totally optional, is to just mount up your holder for your remote. I'm going to give myself a little bit of room here. Let me double check. Make sure that that's not going to interfere with that. So I'll probably have that sit a little bit lower. My OCD is kicking in, so I can't put that below there. We'll put it a little bit higher. That way we don't have any interference. Get that lined up. Get one screw in. That centered. in another screw. These screws are going to be in the same bag as the holder. All right, we'll shoot our last screw in. And like I said, these ones come in the same bag as that, and these have a flat head versus the ones that all have a button head. So you want to make sure that you use those, otherwise it'll interfere with you locking your remote back in. And once it's pressed all the way down, there is a little tab inside there that'll grip it. That way it's not going to bounce out while you're going down a bumpy road. So lock it into place, and we're all good. Now we have everything hooked up and we are connected to shore power. We'll just turn it on and give it our little test run here. So it's already opening up. We are on cool mode and our fan is set at turbo. You can hear it coming through. And we've got some nice cool air already starting to pump through here. So we know our unit's good to go, and that'll do it for the installation. Well, that's going to do it for our look at the Ductless Furrion Chill Cube air distribution box. My name's Kevin, and if you still have some questions about what's going to be the right air distribution box to go along with your Furrion Chill Cube in your trailer setup, then please feel free to reach out to us via our Ask the Experts link, a comment on this video, or a phone call to our customer service department, and we'd be happy to help you out on your journey.